I think Wayne Maxwell's got this one, but the Suzuki man, Josh Waters, is our new champion.
Joining us for the very first round of the Yamaha Motor Finance Australian Superbike Championship presented by Motul Pirelli. I'm Emma Francesco. Joining me again is Steve Martin, former world champion and ASBK ambassador. And Steve, back here already. 2017 was huge. The racing was incredible. And in that Superbike category, it was down to the wire and Josh Waters ended up on top.
Yeah, it was an amazing year. It didn't start off that way because guys like Maxwell, Falzon and Herfoss looked like they were having a battle all of their own. But then towards the end, Josh was chipping away with that new Suzuki and he won here at the island.
Can't wait to see how he goes this week. And of course, this year is going to be absolutely huge. Just for the Superbike category, we already have 50 entrants this weekend.
They're not also rounds though, because there's a lot more money being played around with here. The manufacturers have put more effort in. We're going to have a top 10 that are going to be incredible and ultra competitive.
Certainly competitive with one guy that is returning. Very, very excited about three-time world champion Troy Bayliss.
You know, somebody said to me in the week, Emma, you know, he's 48, 49 years old. Age doesn't come into it with Troy Bayliss. The accolades that he's received throughout his career, he's here for one reason, and that's to win.
Well, I can't wait to see how he goes here for the very first round at this world-famous track. And we took a tour around with our very own Steve Martin.
I've raced at lots of tracks around the world at World Championship level, but there's one track that myself and a lot of the other riders call home, and it's right here, Phillip Island. The Superbikes here hit nearly 300 kilometres an hour down the straight. You've got to be careful though, because you don't want to end up in that, the kitty litter. Turn 2 is difficult, but this corner here, corner 3, sorts the men out from the boys. You enter here at about 220 kilometres an hour. You need a good drive out of 4 into this corner. It's one of my favourites, Siberia. The bikes get really squirrely on the way in, and then on the way out, if you want to see sliding action, that's the place to look. Pretty much flat out over the back up into Lukey. But here at turn 10, things get serious on the last lap. I've traversed thousands of corners in my career, but there's one that commands respect, and it's this one here, the final turn, turn 12. It's the one that determines whether you win or not, the one that you want to be coming out of to get that victory flag. Everybody wants to be a winner, but they've got to get to this line first. Stay tuned to find out who's going to be the winner this time out.
Since the end of the 2017 Australian Superbike Championship last October, much of the attention has centred around who is going where for the 2018 season. And there's been much excitement and anticipation on what lies ahead. Having led for much of last season's championship aboard his privateer Caterpillar Yamaha, Daniel Falzon has been given the opportunity of a lifetime by the Yamaha racing team as teammate to the experienced Wayne Maxwell.
My name's Daniel Falzon, and for the 2018 racing season, I'm with the Yamaha racing team.
Falzen's promotion to the Yamaha factory racing squad meant Glenn Allerton had to find a new home for 2018. But the three-time Australian champion didn't have to look far to find it, reuniting with Next Gen Motorsport and BMW.
Hi, I'm Glenn Allerton, and in 2018, I'm riding for Next Gen Motorsports.
After a long and distinguished career with Honda, Paul Free called time as team owner at the end of last year, and this meant a complete restructure to Honda's factory racing team. Now known as Penrite Honda Racing, they've scaled back to a single bike outfit for 2016 champion Troy Herfoss. This meant his 2017 teammate Brian Starring also had to find a new home. Enter Kawasaki BC Performance, whose star rider Robbie Bugden retired at the end of last season. Starring has plenty of experience racing Kawasaki's and is set to make his mark aboard the Green Machine in 2018.
Hi, I'm Brian Starring. I'm on the Green Machine, the BC Performance Kawasaki. I'll see you in 2018.
Team Suzuki X-Star aren't resting on their laurels heading into this season. Dale Breed and his team have expanded to a two-bike outfit and have welcomed on board young Supersport firebrand Mark Kyoto to partner reigning Australian champion Josh Waters.
I'm Mark Kyoto. I'm racing for Team Suzuki X-Star Australia.
Finally, we arrived at Desmo Sport Ducati, where we've saved the best till last. There's great anticipation in the air with the full-time return of three-time World Superbike Champion Troy Bayliss. The Queenslander has not contested ASBK since 1997, but at 48 years of age, he's out to prove he has more than what it takes against the current generation of riders.
I'm Troy Bayliss. I'll be aboard the Desmo Sport Ducati this year, 2018.
So, after 4 months of planning, preparation and testing, the 2018 Yamaha Motor Finance Australian Superbike Championship, presented by Motul Pirelli, is about to get underway. Join us on the other side of this break for the opening race of the 2018 season.
Well, you'll certainly recognise the guy sitting right beside me. It is our reigning champion, Josh Waters from Team Suzuki X-Star. Josh, back at Phillip Island, this is a place where you were crowned for 2017 third ASBK Championship. You must have a bit of a soft spot for Phillip Island now.
I think I'm like every rider, throughout the world. They all love riding here at Phillip Island. So, yeah, for sure, last year, the last time I raced here was pretty special because, I won the championship. So, it's a new year though. We're all on 0 points, and it's going to be really tough because the championship's so strong now. So, but I'm back with the same team, Team Suzuki X-Star, and I've got the same crew, and I'm looking forward to it.
As you say, yes, it is a level playing field, being round one and everything, but the competition, it is just so tight up and down that grid, isn't it?
Yeah, it's crazy. I thought last year was tough, but this year's, it seems like it's tougher again. So, and it's great that there's so many competitors, and the championship's definitely going in the right direction. So, it's great to be a part of it, and yeah, try my hardest this year, and it'd be unbelievable to do what we did last year. But like I said, I'll try my hardest.
One rider team for 2017. What's it like now having a teammate in Marcus Kyoto?
Oh, it's terrible. He's all right. I like Marcus. He's got so much natural talent, and by the end of the year, he's going to be up there. So he's a really cool person also, and I'm enjoying it, and it's just made the team stronger, I think. So yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
A lot of people are saying that they think you're going to be hard to catch for 2018. Do you feel like you've got a bit of a target in your back?
Yeah, maybe, because I won last year. So, but still, no one will put as much pressure as I do on myself or my brother puts on me. So, but yeah, I just want the best and try and go my best, and hopefully that's good enough. But I guess it's a cool thing to be chased.
Who do you think is your biggest rival for 2018?
There's too many, too many. And also at the first round, it's really difficult because people go in there with, a clear mind thinking that they're going to win. That's what you have to do. So, but for sure, Wayne, Troy, Glenn, Brian Starring's going to be up there. And of course, Bayliss, Daniel Falzon. I've probably forgotten people. They're all going. I look at everyone as competition.
I know you take it round by round, but can it be done? Can you make it a 4th championship this year?
That's my aim, but yeah, that's what I want to do, and I'm sure Glenn's in the same position. But like I said, everyone wants to win the championship, so I just need to try and have every round a good round, and hopefully I'll be champion.
And it is now the championship that everybody wants to win all around the world, not just here in Australia. Welcome to Phillip Island. First race is about to get underway, and privileged to be joined in commentary once again by the 1999 Australian champion, Steve Martin. Steve, welcome. Great to have you back for 2018. Sure to be a fantastic year.
It certainly is. It's going to be an absolute cracker with a whole field of people that can win this one. But first of all, let's head down to the pits with Emma.
I'm just down in pit lane getting ready and set to go for the very first YMF Superbike race of the round, of course, for the 2018 season. It is the reigning champ, Josh Waters, who sits in pole position, very fast this weekend, but alongside him is a very hungry Wayne Maxwell. This is his favourite track, and of course he's had lots of track time this weekend, being on double duties. But the one that everyone is looking at, we're waiting to see what Troy Bayliss is capable of. He's starting from 3rd position. Quite a few things to consider. Of course, the temperatures are very low now. The lowest it's been all weekend. They have not been able to test the tyres in these conditions, and just a few drops of rain around now. Very windy too, so it should make things very interesting, boys. Looking forward to this one.
It is going to be absolutely fantastic. Thanks, Emma, for the update down there from the pits. But also, Steve Martin, tricky conditions in qualifying as well. Lap time's about 11 seconds off what we would expect them to be doing. Didn't stop Josh Waters qualifying in pole position. Joined on the front row there by Wayne Maxwell and Troy Bayliss, as Emma said.
Yeah, I guess when you have a look at it, it looks like the major contenders are up there, but they're not all there. Some guys didn't have it their own way in qualifying. Brian Starring starts all the way back from 13th on the grid. Allerton starts back as well, as you can see. So, there's guys out there that are ruining the qualifying that they had.
Yeah, it is. It's going to be very interesting. The biggest ever entry in ASBK history. 50 entries leading into this round. Of course, only 40 can make up the positions on the grid. And there's some eager people waiting in pit lane to see if the reserve riders can get a bit of a run. Isn't it great to see Arthur Cece's back as well on board a Suzuki here this weekend? Of course, ran in Moto3 in the World Championship. And Aidan Coote joined by his brother Mason, who was a top runner in Supersport last year in the Superbike category in 2018.
Yeah, it looks like Superbikes is definitely the place to be this year, and why wouldn't you want to be there with people like Troy Bayliss even making a comeback? 21 years it's been since his last appearance here, so I tell you what, we cannot wait to get this race underway, Phil.
It is. I've noticed that there's so much excitement down in the pits as well over this weekend. It is going to be a real spectacle here as we get ready for a start now. 2018 Yamaha Motor Finance Australian Superbike Championship. The lights are out and we are away and racing. Great start from Josh Waters. Looked like everyone got off the front row pretty well, although Bayliss may have even been swallowed up by a very fast starting Michael Blair, who's got a great jump from row 2. But it is Waters that poles into turn 1 with a very clear lead. And Brian Starring from, 13th on the grid, is up to 4th place as they go through turn 1.
Daniel Falzon got a cracker of a start as well into 2nd position. His first time on a factory bike, and his teammate Wayne Maxwell just behind him. There's Allerton on the outside as well there, so Allerton's got off to a good start. And as you say, Brian Starring, incredible start for him. But we've got to keep our eyes on Bayliss. He's up there. Bayliss is in that leading group, which is where he needs to be. Allerton goes up the inside. But, Allerton's off. Not the way he wanted to start his first outing on the next-gen BMW.
Oh, how high did Glenn Allerton go then? I thought he was in a high jump. He went so high. He clearly went right over the top of Troy Herfoss. And while all that happened, a couple of people having to take evasive action. Look how far Herfoss is back in the pack now. He's got a lot of work to do, and Josh Waters has just pinned the ears back and has got a clear lead over the Yamaha duo of Daniel Falzon and Wayne Maxwell.
Waters is dangerous in this condition. I mean, he's fast when it's damp, and I tell you what, I just saw a couple of drops on the camera there. So Waters is out in front. He's got a bit of a lead. We know what he's like. Remember back to Eastern Creek last year, similar conditions. He just seems to be able to take off. But look, once again, spots on the camera. there's rain on its way.
Yeah, we're only halfway, we're only just coming round to complete the first lap now of a scheduled 12-lap journey. A couple of rain spots starting to appear. Steve Martin, what goes through the rider's mind? You've been there, you've done it before. What goes through the rider's mind when they're out there? The track is still dry, but there are raindrops on their visor.
Yeah, well, absolutely. It's all about bravery, and look at how brave Daniel Falzon is into turn 1 there at Phillip, and he really stuck it up the inside of Wayne Maxwell. Maxwell back though, that's an incredible dive by Maxwell, and Bayliss is still lurking there in the background too.
Yeah, I noticed that Troy Bayliss had closed right up onto the back of Brian Starring, and Troy Bayliss, isn't it great to see him back? And he's got the elbows out. He clearly has lost nothing in that incredible style over the years of not actually racing but doing plenty of riding at the same time. He's been doing pillion rides, and right behind them Michael Blair is putting in a great ride too on board his privateer Yamaha bike number 178. Let's have a look now on a replay of this incident. Glenn Allerton. Both Allerton and Bayliss were coming right down the inside, and you can see the desperation on Allerton. He just lost the back end. It got a little bit light, crashed into the side of Troy Herfoss. Lucky that Herfoss didn't go down.
Yeah.
And Allerton, unfortunately, is out of this race.
Yeah, and that is not good for Herfoss either, because he's way back in the pack now, and not where he needs to be. But look at Bayliss. He's lost none of his strength. He's lost none of it. His bike's moving around all over the place, and he's just showing the young guns how it's done.
Well, Brian Starring comes straight back at him. As we start this or finish this second lap, let's go down to Emma in the pits.
Guys, just down here with Wayne from Next Gen Motorsports. Wayne, that was a really, really hard hit. Really hope the shoulder's okay.
Yeah, look, not sure what happened, but yeah, he got off pretty hard, and hopefully his arm's all right, because he's just getting over a big break from last year, so he walked away, so that's a good sign.
Good luck for the rest of the weekend.
Thanks a lot.
Yeah, great to hear from Wayne Hepburn there, the team principal for the Next Gen Motorsport team. I think Glenn Allerton's shoulder's going to be all right, because he pretty much landed on his backside as he came down from that great height, Steve.
Yeah, it was absolutely huge. But look at these two guys completely different. Brian Starring, look at the amount of rain on that camera there. It's getting wetter out there, and it looks like the field's starting to pull in. Look at Bayliss. He's not slowing down, though.
Well, he certainly hasn't been short on the bravery pills there, with a big lunge up the inside into turn 4. We saw he was keen on the brakes at the start of the race, turn 4 on the first lap, but Troy Bayliss, the elbows out. You can see the lean angle there, nowhere near as much as what it has been over the last couple of laps, and Wayne Maxwell looked to me to be sliding into turn 4 on that last lap. The track is clearly starting. Well, there you go, there's the rain flags indicating that there is some rain on the circuit. It's going to be a matter of seeing who can manage this situation the best.
Well, it's obviously deemed not wet enough to stop it at this stage, so you've got to go hard. It's declared a dry race at the moment, so the bravest man out there is the one that's going to win this race at the moment, and I'll tell you what, the man that seems the bravest of them all is the oldest man out there, Troy Bayliss.
And it's getting to the stage where it's still dry enough for dries, but it's not wet enough for wets.
Well, it doesn't look like it's going to be heavy, do you know what I mean? So it's really tricky conditions at the moment. There's Herfoss making his way back through the pack. A lot of work for him to do. Matt Waters there as well in the background. Good weekend for him so far to be up there.
Yeah, start of lap 4. Oh, Matt Walters up the inside of that of Mad Mike Jones, riding one of Callum Spriggs' spare bikes here this weekend. But Herfoss has come from a long way back, and he is clearly on fire and getting very keen to push his way back up towards the front. Just went up the inside of Aaron Morris, who's doing a great job here in his Superbike debut this weekend on the all-black machine. And Bayliss is now come challenging Daniel Falzon for third place. Challenging him, he's gone past on the way down in towards turn 4. Oh, Troy Bayliss is on fire.
You've got to say, though, the Ducati in these conditions is probably the perfect bike with that big V-twin engine. Here we go again. There's Herfoss as he heads into one. Walters up the inside. Nice move. Just a beautiful move up the inside there. But this is one we want to see. Look, around the outside, up the inside, into turn 4 there, smooth as you like, and Daniel Falzon's just been taken over by a legend.
I think there's going to be a few people this weekend that are going to have that claim to fame. Look at you can see the rain on the visor there. Bayliss' bike clearly moving around, and he's now got his sights set on Wayne Maxwell's number 47 Yamaha YZF R1M. as he tries to make his way forward. Starring is about to come out under the attention of his former teammate, Troy Herfoss. And that's one thing we haven't mentioned, the dynamic there. Troy Herfoss, brand new single rider team for him this year. Paul Prix stepping down at the end of last year. And also Brian Starring, his debut on a Kawasaki in Australia.
Yeah, absolutely. He's on the BC Performance Kawasaki this time out. I did touch on it before, but I didn't get to spit it out because there was too much action, Phil. Kawasaki, it's not a bike that's new to him though, because he has ridden them before in Europe. He knows it well. He's won in Europe, and I reckon it's going to be a combination to watch this year for sure. But the man out front, the man with the most worry at the moment is Josh Waters. He's the man who's finding that grip, pushing the limits. Everybody else is saying, well, if Josh can do it, we can too. So Josh Waters is probably in the most precarious situation of all the riders out there at the moment.
Yeah, that's a good point, Steve. And as they make their way up towards the hay shed now, we'll see if that raindrops that we can see on the camera, you can see them there as we swing around and look towards the hay shed. There are clearly raindrops on the camera there as Troy Bayliss continues to close in on Wayne Maxwell's Yamaha racing team machine. Of course, Daniel Falzon, the new addition to that team this year as well.
Yeah, you can see now that Daniel Falzon's just hanging on to the back of Troy Bayliss. He's also said to himself, well, if Bayliss can do it, I have to do it. I can't let him go away. And that's actually pulling him up a little bit towards Wayne Maxwell at the moment. So a good move. But keep an eye on Bayliss's bike, will you? It's moving around all over the place.
Is that the rain, or is that Troy Bayliss?
Well, it's a combination of both, I think. You know, what a debut for Bayliss. He's in a podium position at the moment. Can you believe that? Did you see it coming?
Well, I knew that he was going to be strong. Probably didn't think he was going to be quite this strong, but these conditions are really playing into his hand. Is that Maxwell? Maxwell down, and the entry to turn one of the fastest places at Phillip Island. And unfortunately for Wayne Maxwell, his year has started off with a crash in race one, just like it did in 2017.
Yeah, you don't normally pick your bike up from that situation. I'd say that he'll definitely won't be able to get it going. There's someone else down there too, so...
is that Mad Mike Jones? I think it is.
It is. Mike Jones is down as well, so it's definitely wet into turn one. The flags are out. Wayne's trying to get his bike going, try and get it back to the pits if he can, but it looks like he's digging in there. You just see even Waters has put his hands up there, and he almost went but managed to save it. Not so lucky for the number 47, the Yamaha rider, who's doubling up this weekend doing World Superbikes as well, has bit the dust. Not the ideal way to start your championship year off.
Well, also, how close was Josh Waters to actually running off the track at turn one as well? He only missed that ripple strip by a small margin. Let's go down to Emma for an update from the pits.
Just down here with Phil Tainton from Team Suzuki X-Star, and the rain is just starting to fall, but wow, Josh is still looking very fast, isn't he?
He's very fast. He'd be a very worried rider at the moment. This would be very daunting to go into turn one with this mist on your visor. Nothing we can do about it. Same for everybody, but he's starting to get cautious now. He's backing it off a little bit.
It'll make things interesting. Thanks, Phil.
Thank you.
Yeah, very wise man, Phil Tainton, and you can see Josh Waters is very ginger down into turn one, especially after the last lap, Steve Martin, where he nearly ran off the circuit, and we saw Wayne Maxwell go down. Those rain flags are starting to come out. The track is starting to now look like it's starting to get very wet.
Yeah, absolutely. He's going to have to take it really, really sensibly out there, because the slicks will work in these conditions. He's just had a look over his shoulder to see if anyone's catching up to him. They will work in these conditions while the tyres are still hot. But I'll tell you, if it gets any wetter than this, and those red flag, we've got a red flag. The flag's obviously come out now, Phil, because it's just too wet. So good move there. So the riders will head back to the pit now. There's Josh. He's looks like he's relieved that it's all over there. And
a bit of gesticulating going on there from Josh Waters. He's clearly not happy that it's gone on for as long as it did, but I tell you, the man that was on the move and probably the big loser out of that was Troy Herfoss. He was nearly back up with that lead pack after that incident at turn 4 on the first lap put him a long way back. He was clearly on the charge and looking very comfortable with the Penrite Honda. There's Josh Waters indicating that he thinks that the conditions have clearly got too dangerous to proceed, and the officials have called a red flag stoppage. Interesting to see what happens now, how many laps they go back to determine what the grid positions are for the sprint to the finish, and Steve Martin, how long that sprint will be.
Yeah, absolutely. There's definitely a lot of calculations going on in the pits now. There'll be a lot of people that are happy that this stoppage has happened. Herfoss, for example, who got that bad start due to being knocked back. Troy Bayliss, he's probably going, come on, what's going wrong? I was happy, you know. So there's lots of different reasons as to why the people are doing what they're doing. We will be back after this break with the resumption of race 1.
Welcome back to Phillip Island and the first round of the 2018 Yamaha Motor Finance Australian Superbike Championship. As you can see, the riders are in pit lane after a red flag stoppage due to rain conditions in this first leg of 3 here at Phillip Island. And it is very, very confusing down there in pit lane. There's a lot of waving hands. Let's go down to Emma, who's on the spot for an update from pit lane.
Guys, lots of commotion down here. We were just ready to go racing, but it has been stalled, of course. All the tyres have gone cold now, and they have just declared the race wet. So a lot of frustrated people down here in pit lane.
Well, thanks very much, Emma. A very, very tricky situation. Steve Martin, the race has been declared wet. What are the implications now for the riders and their tyres as we get ready to start this, second leg of race 1?
Yeah, right. Pretty tricky conditions out there at the moment. What it actually means is that when they do start the race, the tyre you have on the bike is the tyre that you have. If it dries up and you enter with wets, you have to use the wets to the end. If it rains and you enter with dries, you use that tyre to the end. So it's the officials saying, guys, this is it. Make your choice. Whatever tyre you put in the bike is the tyre that you have to use to the end of the race. And you can see now really tricky conditions as they start head out. Wayne Maxwell there looks like he's on his spare wet bike, so he's heading it back out as well. But you might find, because it hasn't rained that much, and I mean, sticking my head out the window, it's quite blustery and windy. Here's the replay, the highlights from the first part of the race, and once again, as we run through that, you can just see Josh Waters taking up from where he left off last year.
Yeah, perfectly dry conditions at the start of the race, and as they went down into turn 1, it was Josh Waters with a clear lead, but then this massive incident at turn 4 on the first lap. Allerton, desperate to get down the inside of Troy Bayliss, left his braking to the last minute, unfortunately crashed into the side of Troy Herfoss, went high in the air, and Herfoss pushed a long way back.
There's the new teammates side by side as well. Daniel Falzon, welcome to Factory Yamaha, and Wayne Maxwell. Looks like you've got a bit of competition there, my friend.
Yeah, and also the rain flags came out. The race did continue on for about another 3.5 laps after that. The good news, though, Steve Martin, is that the race has gone back and declared at the end of lap 4, which means that Wayne Maxwell, who had that massive crash at turn 1, will be able to start the race, and he will start from second position on the grid, but with wet tyres, as you observed.
Yeah, well, I don't think his number 1 bike will be much good after that, so I don't think he had too much choice. I think Wayne Maxwell had to basically get onto that wet bike and head out there. Let's head down to Emma in the pits.
Guys, I just found 2017 World Champion Lucas Mace. It's great to have you here watching the Australian Superbikes.
Yeah, for sure. I like look the bike, look the race. Maybe a different category, different racer. Yes, I like. And the race is the race. Is my passion. Is my dream. And yes, I like. And especially the Australian Superbike, because you have the maybe 1, 2, or 3 old rider, and the rider ride in Superbike in endurance. And yes, for sure it's good. And now it's difficult because the weather is strange, rain, no rain. But yes, I like follow for the final of the race.
Thanks, Lucas. Enjoy the weekend.
Yes, thank you very much.
Great to hear from Lucas Myers, ready to go racing against Steve Martin. Revs rise. We're away. Leg 2 of race 1, 2018 Yamaha Motor Finance Australian Superbike Championship. They pile down in towards turn 1. Looking at the track, it doesn't look in too bad a condition. And Brian Starring from way back on the grid is up into second place. Josh Waters clearly in the lead.
Yeah, I mean, Brian has certainly got the starts nailed on that bike. But look at Bayliss. He's up there too, round the outside into second position straight away. That's incredible stuff by him. Where's Wayne Maxwell? There he is, back in the pack with his wet weather tyres on. One of the few guys out there with wets on. Everybody else has chosen slicks. Al Phillip there as well, so good to see Al Phillip making his debut on the Suzuki.
Yeah, Al Phillip on board bike number 20. The big question is, how long can Wayne Maxwell hold on if the track stays in its current condition? He'll be doing a rain dance and hoping for some rain very, very soon. The rest of the field, it looked like, on slick tyres. Aaron Morris on board bike number 64. So far, a very impressive debut from the Novocastrian.
Yeah, he hasn't had a lot of time on that R1 Yamaha. First time on a 1000cc machine in Australia. Of course, he's raced in World Endurance overseas on the bigger bikes, but not in the sprint races before. So good to see the man on the number 64 here at Phillip Island making his debut.
Keep your eye on bike number 17, the 2016 Australian Superbike Champion, Troy Herfoss. He is on a charge. He just schooled Al Phillip at the Hayshed on how fast you can run in there. Matt Walters has also now got past the Victorian as well. But here comes Troy Herfoss closing up onto the back of Aaron Morris. Clearly more raindrops on the screen. Very tricky conditions have continued on. All of these riders on slick tyres as they come round to complete the first lap of what will be a 6-lap dash to the finish to determine the results of race 1.
Yeah, look at Morris though. Morris is hanging in there. He's doing a really good job at hanging on. Matty Walters is in that group as well. Straight past into turn 1. Nearly past the both of them. What a great job by Matty there.
Yeah, you can see Matt Walters got the Kawasaki hooked up well and got great drive out onto the straight. That Kawasaki ZX-10, the Rover Coach's Swan Insurance machine, is certainly not slow in a straight line.
Troy Herfoss is making his 2018 pretty difficult. Look how much work he's got to do if he wants to get on the podium. It's definitely not where he wants to be. He doesn't want to be battling with these guys at the back. He's got a long, long way to go and a lot of work to do if he's going to catch up to Josh Waters out in front.
Oh, Herfoss, level of desperation has just gone up a notch as he gets up the inside of Aaron Morris. The bike was starting to get out of line. And he's now passing. We're interested to see what he can do with clear air in front of him. Troy Herfoss on bike number 17, the debut of the Penrite Honda here at Phillip Island. He's now closing up onto the back of his teammate from last year, Brian Starring, who is also having his debut here on the BC Performance Kawasaki. Matt Walters and Aaron Morris, well, they're both from the Newcastle area. They're going to war as well. A great battle between these two. Aaron Morris, as we said, debut here at Phillip Island. He's only done 1 or 2 test days on that machine as well. This is very impressive.
No, it is impressive. It's good to see all those young guns together there. With Al Phillips also finding his feet. He had a big crash in pre-season testing at the ASBK test. Rode one of his new Suzukis off through the Hayshed corner, so good to see him out there and competitive this time round. But it's Suzuki man out front, Josh Waters leading the way as he did in the first part of this race. I think he's got this one covered when you look at it.
Well, he looks to have a newfound air of confidence and also looks incredibly comfortable on the bike. Does Josh Waters as he comes down into turn 1, but look who's coming. Look who's coming very quickly from behind. It is the number 21. You mentioned Steve Martin, 21 years since he's ridden competitively here at Phillip Island, and he is back, and he's back in a big way. He's got the elbows out, and he is closing. He's right up onto the back of Waters now. Waters has a look over his shoulder, and all he sees is a bright red flash.
I call that the front, not the back, Phil. He's in front of him now. This is the first time that Bayliss has led a race. We said if he got on the podium, it'd be incredible. Imagine if he wins this one.
Well, you can see everyone behind. You can see their eyes have just been lit up behind the tinted visors on their helmets because they're now all chasing the 3 times Superbike World Champion, the man who has never won an Australian Superbike Championship despite finishing on the top of the field a couple of times. But look at that, the drive and the aggression from Troy Bayliss.
That almost looked, though, like Waters backed off a little bit, but Waters is going backwards now. Everybody's going past him. Perhaps he's got some sort of problem. Troy Bayliss won't be worried about that, though. And look how tight the group is now. It was all over the place a couple of laps ago. Now they're all together. We're in for some good racing, my friend.
Yeah, you mentioned about Troy Herfoss making life difficult for himself. He's now charged his way up into 3rd place on that Penrite Honda. And the interesting dynamic is that we mentioned about Paul Prix stepping down, and that's why Troy Herfoss is in the single rider team now, run by the Elite Roads people. But Troy Bayliss' crew chief for this year is none other than Paul Prix.
Yeah, absolutely. Paul's moved up to Queensland and he's twiddling the spanners on the number 21 Ducati. Looks like he's doing a pretty good job. 4 abreast as they head into turn 1. 5 abreast if you include Josh Waters on the back there. Whoa, that was close. Falzon.
I think Falzon just shoulder charged the back end of the 12.99 final edition Panigale ridden by Troy Bayliss. Herfoss comes around the outside. Oh, this is an epic start to 2018. If this is what the rest of the season's going to be like, Steve Martin, race safe and better get the defibrillators ready for everyone in the crowd.
Yeah, this is an incredible display by the top riders. And, I mean, look at all the different brands we've got in there. They're all there. They're all the riders. Any one of these guys can win this race.
There are so many riders in that lead group. I couldn't even count them as they all took different lines. Down into turn 4, it was Aaron Morris and Brian Starring having a bit of a coming together there. Aaron Morris clearly not worried about reputations. There are so many Australian Superbike Championships and World Championships in this group, and there's a young man in his rookie season having a big charge.
Nice move up the inside by Waters. He's starting to get his mojo back, but once again you can see the spots of rain there. Perhaps that's why things are starting to come together in this race. Only a few laps left, but it looks like Bayliss is out in front at the moment. He seems to have things under control, but Herfoss not happy with that. Up the inside, nice move into turn 10 there. Can he control it through 11? He does. He's got to get a good drive onto the turn 12 and down that front start-finish straight.
Well, will this race be known as the Battle of Troy? It's back to the World Superbike halcyon days of Troy Corser and Troy Bayliss doing battle, but it is now Troy Herfoss that leads Troy Bayliss out onto the straight. Falzon, the rookie season in the Yamaha Racing Team factory concern as well, right in there. And also here comes Josh Waters. Look at the speed of that X-Star Suzuki, and look at the speed of Staring's BC Performance Kawasaki.
And Herfoss just had a lesson of slipstreaming because he had two bikes go past him there, and that is the effect that can happen here at this circuit at Phillip Island as they head around Southern Loop. Herfoss back up into second place. Josh Waters is right there now as well. Bayliss has got his elbows out. Herfoss looking for a way past. We know that he can do it. Falzon sitting in that group, and Staring, boy, how dangerous does he look there?
Oh, they all look dangerous. You can see that Aaron Morris and Al Phillips have just dropped off the back of this lead pack fractionally. But here we go, slow motion replay of them coming onto the straight. Look at Troy Bayliss. Do you reckon he's having a bit of a go, Steve Martin?
What an animal. What an animal Bayliss is. He's lost nothing. He's back, and he's proven to these young bucks that he's here to win.
He's not only back, he's back into the lead. He nearly ran off the circuit at the exit of the Hayshed. Not the place you want to be experimenting with track limits. Herfoss came back. Bayliss back up the inside. Oh, this is epic stuff. Race 1 of the 2018 Championship is an absolute ball terror.
Incredible bit of rear movement there from Bayliss as well. He's got that Ducati Panigale moving around. Josh Waters is going, this is not what I signed up for. I was meant to win this race by a mile. Well, that's not the way it's going to be this year by the look of it.
Well, coming round now, they should get the last lap board as they come down onto the Gardner Straight for this occasion. It is Bayliss that leads from Herfoss, Josh Waters and Daniel Falzon, the lead group of 4. They've just dropped them off a fraction. Brian Staring still hanging in there. I think Aaron Morris and Al Phillips have just dropped back a fraction. 4.45 kilometres to go. 11 turns now as they come through turn 1. This is anybody's race. Waters back into the lead.
Yeah, this is anybody's race. Falzon a little bit wide there, but once again, nice tight line. But this is where Bayliss is strong, and look at him. All the way around using all the track. Just nudges up next to Waters, but Waters leaves him no room on the outside this time. But Bayliss into turn 4 is so strong. He's gone up the inside. He's hard on the brakes. He's through. Bayliss is through.
Oh, and does he run wide a fraction? I think he's run a fraction wide, but he's managed to hold the line out towards Siberia. That was a big move from Bayliss, but a big move from Herfoss as well, who comes back on the inside. Troy Herfoss, he only needed a couple of inches to get it in there, and he's done it.
Bayliss made a small mistake into Siberia there, which allowed Herfoss to go through. This is the most important last sector of Phillip Island for Herfoss in a long, long time. He's had to work for it, but I'll tell you what, Bayliss isn't going to give up that easy.
Well, we've seen how fast the Suzuki X-Star Australia machine and also the Kawasaki of Brian Staring are. Can they get the double slipstream if they're in those positions as they come out onto the Gardner Straight? Oh, I had a moment there. I thought that was someone running off the circuit. It is still Herfoss that leads from Bayliss, Waters, Staring. Round 2 more corners to go, Steve Martin.
Bayliss is going to be lining himself up now for a slipstream. We know that Panigale's fast. He's going to get right into the back wheel, right behind this man, Troy Herfoss. But Herfoss is as smooth as you like through that last corner. He's got enough. I reckon Herfoss has got enough. Bayliss comes through in second. Bayliss on the podium in his first race back.
Oh, Troy Herfoss takes the win by 0.2 of a second, with Troy Bayliss right behind another 0.2 of a second. In fact, there was less than half a second covering the top 4, with Josh Waters finishing in 3rd and Brian Staring in 4th. The rest of the field streams through now. Give yourself a round of applause, fellas. That was absolutely epic and a great way to start the Yamaha Motor Finance Australian Superbike Championship of 2018.
Troy Herfoss wins that one with Bayliss in second position, Josh Waters 3rd and Brian Staring in 4th.
Yeah, Daniel Falzon finished 5th. Aaron Morris, a fine debut ride in 6th place. Al Phillips in 7th. Michael Blair in 8th. Matty Walters in 9th place. And Mark Kyoto rounds out the top 10 in his debut as well.
I was the most vocal before the restart because I was in the lead and I was hitting the stuff first, and sorry for thinking with me heart, I was just thinking of the other guys out there. Like, I didn't crash, but one of my main rivals did, and lucky he's not hurt. So that's all I was frustrated about, but the race was really good and great for the crowd, and yeah, it's going to be a great year, I think.
Yeah, good. It was a good start to the weekend, you could say. It's good to get one under the belt, but basically it was like doing 2 races, so if that's what it feels like. Happy to be here on the podium. I couldn't really ask for too much more this early on in the piece, so I want to thank everyone and everyone in the ASBK and everyone that supports and is behind us, and look forward to a little bit more this weekend.
Troy Herfoss, there was so much commotion, of course, after that red flag, but you managed to go out there, stay focused and take home the win. Well done.
Yeah, one thing I've learned over the years racing at World Superbike weekend is that anything can happen. So when we pulled into pit lane, I know a lot of people assumed that the race would be called, but I just thought, you know what, I've been in this situation before, and I just sat down, took a few deep breaths, and sort of prepared myself for that next ride. And yeah, I had a coming together with another rider. I think Glenn Allerton. I hope he's okay in the first run. And so I was coming through the field in the rain, and I didn't have to sort of lead the race. So I could judge the grip level quite well, and gave me confidence to start the race. And we had good speed. It must have been exciting at the end there. I had tunnel vision, but the last few laps it was a few guys having a good old crack. So great way to start the year. And the Penrite Hondas first place in their first outing, and I can tell you now we didn't expect this at the ASBK test a few weeks ago, but I'm over the moon about it.
Here in the ASBK paddock, we have a ton of big personalities, and we want you to get to know your riders. So we thought, why not go behind the visor? And this round is with Wayne Maxwell.
Yeah, always a joke. I think that's why my high school days came to an end quite early, because I was never that serious, always mucking around either away racing motorbikes or taking the piss. Year 9, so when it was a legal age, so yeah, so I'm actually pretty privileged I can spell my own name. Yeah, I used to race, and I obviously raced my whole life, but then I used to work for my dad, so I did my apprenticeship as a mechanic, and then pretty much that was about it. It's been racing motorbikes ever since. Yeah, so I work for a good friend of mine, so doing building, structured building. There's a little quick shout out, and yeah, so it's really good, and yeah, we do all sorts of projects, and I enjoy the challenge of starting a job and seeing it through to the end. I think first of all you have to be your teammate, but I think the person I most want to beat is probably Josh Waters, because for me he's kind of had the wood on me over the years. So the last sort of ASBK championship I won, he wasn't here, so it's like that I only won because he wasn't here. So I really need to try and beat him. Yeah, for sure, he's an absolute legend of the sport, and to put himself out there, and for us to have a crack at, and it's unbelievable. Anyone that doesn't like Troy Bayliss is not really going to be a good motorcycle fan. Starts with coffee, that's my second favourite drink, and then I just head over, have my muesli and fruit, and then yeah, just sort of try to muck around and fill in the morning and not think about riding too much. No real superstitions, just always for some reason put my left boot on first, then my right.
So now you know a little bit more about Wayne Maxwell from the Yamaha racing team. We wish him the very best of luck for the 2018 season.
2018 is going to be a special year in the paddock for many reasons, but this bloke here, who last year, Troy Bayliss, needs no introduction, was team manager. Mate, I've got to say, you've thrown your leathers back on. Firstly, what made you do that?
Yeah, obviously, we all know Ben and myself are like partners in this team, and a couple of years ago we had Mike Jones on board, and Mike was riding good and he was up the front. And we've seen what's happened to Mike, and now he's ended up this year he's going to be in the Spanish Championship. And then we've had a couple of young guys on the bike and who did okay, but basically, long story short, the guys just need a little bit more time, and being in the situation we have, with quite a bit of support, the guys started screaming like they want some results, and that's a really long story, but basically I needed to get on the bike, and even me knowing, not really knowing whether I can do it or not. It all started about 4 months ago, so I've had sort of 4 months to prepare and try and do what we've sort of done today. And right up until this day today, I've been really questioning myself whether I can do it or not. And I really enjoyed riding the bike today. I like to be in a scrap, and I had a good time, and sort of smiling now, and I did enjoy the ride.
When did you know? I mean, obviously all through practice, pre-season testing, you actually had a big off in pre-season testing and probably put you back a little bit, injured you. But when did you know, when you were out there, that you could actually match it with these young guns?
It wasn't until yesterday, at the official test here a few weeks ago, we struggled a little, and basically it was me trying to get to grips with the bike and find a setting that I felt comfortable on. The bikes have changed a lot since when I rode full time, and I'm still not feeling completely at home on the bike, but I feel good on it. We left the test here and did a few sessions at Morgan Park, and we found something that made me instantly feel much better and felt easier to ride the bike. So I felt a little bit more confident to come here, but when I hopped on the bike and rode it the first time and ended up second in the first session, something inside me clicked then. I went, I can be competitive for sure.
I think back, if I look at history, I think of one guy pretty famous who I'm sure you know, Mike Harwood. I mean, it's a name that's synonymous with anybody that's into motorbike racing. He also won, retired, then decided to come back and won again. I mean, you're putting yourself in that category, mate. It's pretty legendary stuff.
It's definitely different, that's for sure. And honestly, I'm getting a real kick out of doing a comeback. It's a challenge for me. It's going to keep me on the straight and narrow, and it's something. Once I don't know the word it is, but maybe it's excessive compulsive. That's what I've got now, and that means I want to win. It was probably 4 weeks ago. Davide Tardozzi called me. And he said, Troy, what? You can imagine David. He said, what are you doing? It's crazy. And he's telling Kim and everyone, why is Troy doing this? He doesn't need to do this. He rings me last night after the test, and he's changed his mind a little. He said, Troy, I think this weekend you take your time, learn the bike, get some points, and then by maybe mid-season we see. So it's really funny. I've got a great relationship with David. But he knows now that I'm serious, and we go from there.
Well, Troy Bayliss didn't wait till mid-season. He waited until halfway through 2 laps into race number 1. Anyone thought that Troy Bayliss was here to make up the numbers, clearly now is not under that illusion anymore. And we get ready now for the start of race number 2. Before we do that, let's head back down to the pits and get an update from Emma Francesco.
You're just getting set and ready to go for this YMI Superbike race number 2 down here at the pit wall. And that first race, wow, it really had absolutely everything. You couldn't have written the script any better. Lots of drama, some sensational racing. But not a sensational race for Glenn Allerton, of course. You would have seen he had a really big accident. He high-sided on the way in at turn 4. And because of that, he is walking around very sore indeed. I caught up with him a little bit earlier, and of course his spirits are very down. He landed very hard on that back. He will be racing though, of course, starting from 7th position. Someone else that's looking a little bit sore, limping up and down pit lane, was Wayne Maxwell. He had a DNF yesterday after a serious accident too. He will be racing in this race also, starting from 2nd position. Interesting to see how the day will go for him. And down here, it is still very cool. The winds are still very strong. Track temperatures at about 22 degrees. We've had plenty of sunshine and the track is dry. So certainly we'll have a bit of a different outcome, we think, from that first race. Guys, it's over to you.
Well, thanks very much, Emma. And yes, we are getting ready for the start of race number 2. And Glenn Allerton and Wayne Maxwell, those big crashes, they are sure to be riding injured. In fact, I reckon if they can score a top 10 and get some solid points moving into this second race, that will be a good start for them, Steve Martin.
Yeah, I don't think Wayne Maxwell will be thinking about a top 10. He wants to go for the win for sure. But it's Josh Waters on pole, taking it up with Wayne Maxwell and Troy Bayliss in 3rd position.
Yeah, Falzon, Herfoss and Michael Blair will start from the 2nd row of the grid. Keep your eye on the 3rd row of the grid as well, with Glenn Allerton, Damon Rees and Aaron Morris, and also Matt Walters, Kyle Buckley and Mad Mike Jones on road 4.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot to play for. Completely different conditions this time compared to the race 1 here. So let's hope that it stays dry, Phil, throughout the course of the race.
Yeah, and if race 1 told us anything, keep an eye out for Brian Starring, who starts way back in 13th position. And also Al Phillips, he was up there. He'll start from row 7 on the grid. And also, too, the battle between the Coote brothers, that's incredibly interesting, with Mason out qualifying his more experienced brother in the Superbike category, Aiden.
Yeah, once again, Phil, this grid is packed to the rafters with talent. And the good news is, like we said before, that everybody is on the grid from yesterday. So you've got your Wayne Maxwells out there. The people that have got work to do are definitely going to have work to do. Spiteri, Smith and Lemons have got a big lot of work to do from row 13, though.
Yeah, and Patrick Lee rounds out the 40 bike field as we get ready for a start. Big crowd here in at Phillip Island to take in the action of race 2 of the 2018 Yamaha Motor Finance Australian Superbike Championship. Opening round, Lights are on, the revs rise, we're away. Great start once again from Josh Waters from pole position. And also Mark Kyoto on bike number 30 got a charging start. Look at him coming up the inside there. He's gone past Aaron Morris. Down into turn one though, it is a deja vu repeat from yesterday. It is Josh Waters that leads comfortably over Daniel Falzon.
Yeah, remember how fast Daniel Falzon was last year too. He was also an incredible starter and he hasn't lost that talent on the factory Yamaha.
Yeah, but Troy Bayliss is also in there as well. Oh, we've got one going off there at turn two. Didn't quite pick up who that was, but as the field streams their way through, Brian Starring has got another cracking start from 13th position on the grid. He's up there, looks like he's just behind Matt Walters on the Rover Coaches Swan Insurance.
Look at that!
Down into turn four, Waters has run wide. Falzon comes up the inside, both Waters and Falzon both running wide, and Troy Bayliss is back into the mix.
Gee, Waters got lucky there. He could have run off easily, but he managed to hold it together. Herfoss making a much better start than he had in race one. These guys are right where they need to be, but talking about starts, what about Wayne Maxwell? This is the best start he's ever had.
Well, we saw last year he lost the race a lot of the time in the first couple of laps by not getting that great start. Now, just looking at that incident into turn four, Steve, looking out the window, a very strong tailwind pushing them into turn four. Is that possibly what it was? The wind is very strong, pushing them in there past their braking marker, going 5 or 10 k's an hour faster, and just forcing them to run wide on this first lap.
Absolutely, the wind has been changing around all over the place down here, and I mean, you just can't pick your gear and you can't do anything. It's a gamble every time you go out on track. So for sure, Josh Waters got in there a bit hotter than he thought with that tailwind pushing him into Honda. But he managed to get away with it. He's got a bit of a buffer now, and Bayliss is in second position with Maxwell right behind him as they head through turn one, and Herfoss, race one winner, is there too.
Yes, I think it's the first time Troy Herfoss has actually ever won the first race of the season, and this race too actually marks the 50th start in the Australian Superbike Championship for Troy Herfoss on the Penrite Oils Honda. Oh, big bit of handlebar movement there, almost a tank slapper, but brought quickly back under control by Troy Herfoss as he charges down now into turn four, trying to find a way past Wayne Maxwell. Well, two of the demon breakers in the championship there, trying to get a one-up on each other, and right behind them is Daniel Falzon on board 25. It's been an impressive debut for him on board that factory Yamaha this weekend.
Yeah, there's been a few impressive debuts. The whole three of that bunch, impressive by Bayliss. Daniel Falzon, incredible job by him, and Herfoss yesterday, new Honda team winning first time out. Let's not forget that.
Yeah, that was a great effort by the brand new Penrite Oils Honda team. And they would have been celebrating long and hard last night. Not too far behind this lead group as well. We've got that battle with the Kawasaki's with Matt Walters and Brian Starring, who is one of the only lead riders in this lead group that is actually on Dunlop rubber. The rest of them all on the dominant Pirelli rubber. The championship the championship riders using Pirelli are benefiting from the development that they've done in World Superbike.
Yeah, absolutely. There's definitely been probably a few new hoops been rolled out here this weekend. There always is at the start of the year, but Bayliss doesn't care. His bike's still wobbling all over the place. As he tips in, is he going to go past Maxwell? Be brave if he does, because Maxwell is one of the biggest breakers in the game.
Herfoss carried a lot of speed through turn one and comes up the inside of Bayliss at turn two. What a great move from Herfoss.
Bayliss is not having it all his own way, but he's up the inside of Herfoss now.
Well, one thing we've seen from Troy Bayliss so far, he is not scared of the fight. He's always keen in there, and turn two seems to be one of the places where he is more than happy to stick the 1299 Panigale Final Edition, the Desmo Sport Ducati, up the inside of anyone. Super slow-mo replay time of the bikes coming out onto the straight. You can see Waters there leading. Bike looking very, very smooth. Bayliss wrestling the Desmo Sport Ducati out onto the straight. Also Maxwell front wheel in the air, tucked in behind the screen. Look at the screen moving around as they come down there. And here is another replay of that move by Troy Herfoss. He came up the inside of Troy Bayliss, ran a fraction wide. Bayliss was very quick to repay the favour on the run out of turn two, as the two Troys are still disputing that position on track, and they look like they've just fractionally gapped Daniel Falzon. The real interest too, the battle this year between Glenn Allerton and Josh Waters. Who can be the first one to go on and win 4 Australian Superbike Championships? Of the 3 people that have won 3, 2 of them racing in 2018.
And there's one bloke out there that hasn't won one yet, and that's number 21, Troy Bayliss. He's won a lot of other stuff, but he hasn't won an Australian Superbike Championship, so I'm sure that that's got to be on his agenda.
It certainly has. Not only did he just narrowly miss out on the Australian Superbike Championship, also narrowly missed out on the Australian Supersport Championship as well. As Troy Herfoss has a look up the inside door, well and truly closed by the three-time Superbike World Champion, Troy Bayliss.
Yep.
And they were hoping that the Panigale final edition would get Ducati back up the front. I'd have to say that so far this weekend, it's a case of mission accomplished for Desmo Sport Ducati.
Yeah, but Herfoss nips through. He's run wide. How are you going to come back from this one? That's a lot. He's lost a lot of ground there.
Well, we said, Steve Martin, yesterday, the level of desperation has increased a lot of points this weekend. I think the inclusion of Troy Bayliss has done that. You can see there, Troy Herfoss doesn't usually make mistakes on the brakes. He was so deep in there, he ran wide and has got a lot of work to do to get back on track now with Troy Bayliss.
No, absolutely, definitely the case there. Let's head down to Emma, who's in the pits.
Guys, it's down here with Wayne from Next Gen Motorsports, and I caught up with Glenn a little bit earlier. He looks very sore. How is he out there racing?
Look, it's determination. There's a lot of points to be lost here. So there's 3 races, so normally we only have 2, so he's doing everything he can. I think he's in about 9th at the moment. But yeah, look, he's a champion, so that's what he does.
Thanks, Wayne.
Yeah, you got that right, Wayne Hepburn. Glenn Allerton is a champion. He's a 3 times champion, in fact. And actually, speaking of champions, we just saw while we were talking to Wayne Hepburn there, Mad Mike Jones had gone down. Looked like turn 4 on the spare bike from Callum Spriggs that he's riding here this weekend before he heads off overseas to compete in that Italian Superstock 1000 Championship. But it is the other 3-time champion racing here this weekend, Josh Waters, that still leads on the Team Suzuki X-Star Australia machine. But keep your eye on Wayne Maxwell, the Pharaoh, Phillip Island on board bike number 47. He looks to be closing in on Waters as they came out of turn 2 and head towards turn 3.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, just looking at Maxwell's bike there too, it's looking pretty solid. He's looking, he's not moving around much. He's holding a bit of a tighter line than Waters. I think that he's got that set up just right. He's made a move, he's through.
Well, Wayne Maxwell had done a couple of laps in the low 33s, and that's what's brought him right up onto the back of Josh Waters, and he's now gone past with a very slick move, and he's, if anything, he's starting to pull out a couple of bike lengths over Josh Waters on board the X-Star Suzuki GSX-R 1000R as they make their way up towards the top end of the Phillip Island circuit.
Yeah, I mean, look at the way that the bike's just sitting on the track. It looks really planted, more planted than the Suzuki behind it. I mean, he's doing a really good job. Lots of laps around this circuit. He's had 2 big crashes this weekend, but it's certainly not slowing him down. He knows that he's got to make up a lot of points. He scored zilch points in race 1, so he's a long way behind in the championship. He's got to make this count. Finishing second's not going to cut it here in race 2. He needs to win it if he can.
Well, and I put my hand up and say you pick this, Steve Martin, as we've sent Glenn Allerton and Wayne Maxwell both riding engines. They'd be lucky to take top 10. You picked it that Wayne Maxwell will be happy with nothing less than victory as they start lap 6. At the end of lap 5, Wayne Maxwell uncorked a 1:33.492 and had a 0.2 second lead over Josh Waters.
Still a long way to go in this one, though. Let's just have a look at a replay. This is earlier on in the race. Spit sideways there. Look at Herfoss. That's where he loses all his time. Bayliss goes through, and Herfoss is ruining the fact that he's run off there. Looks like Falzon nipped through as well. There's the moment that Wayne Maxwell got through. Some sort of mistake by the number 1 rider there, Josh Waters. So he ran a bit wide through Honda, and that allowed Maxwell an easy way through.
Yeah, well, Waters was back to a 1:34.3 on that last lap. I reckon all of that lost time was in that corner there. But what does it do to a rider's psychology? Troy Herfoss, you saw him run wide. How long did it take him to get his composure back? Knowing Troy Herfoss, probably about, he had it back before Siberia.
Well, gathering by that gap there, which is about point nothing, he's got it back straight away. Wayne Maxwell's certainly not running away with it, because what Wayne will have done is when he's seen that mistake is he would have given it everything that he could in the next lap, and perhaps this lap too, just to see if he can break that man on the X-Star Suzuki, Josh Waters. You can see there's a 3-second gap back to 3rd position at the moment, but it's down to these 2 guys at the moment as they head into turn 1.
Start of lap 7, let's go to Emma Francesco in the pits for an update.
Guys, I'm just down here at the Yamaha garage, and I know that Maxwell was limping around a little bit earlier, but he's looking very strong out there.
He bounces back really well, considering he had 2 major offs yesterday. He's doing very well.
His spirits looked very high as well.
Yeah, no, he's very confident. He's very happy with the bike, and that's a good thing for a rider.
Good luck for the rest of the day.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Emma. Great to hear from John Redding there, the team manager for Team Yamaha. But while we were talking to John Redding, one of his riders, Daniel Falzon, was overtaken with venom by Brian Starring, who's now moved up into 3rd place on the road on board that BC Performance Kawasaki.
Yeah, absolutely. Both of his riders are competitive. Daniel Falzon, you can see there, it's fitted into the team nicely and is competitive straight away. But back to the action, and it's Brian Starring that's making his way through the pack. I'm sure he's not going to be happy with that. But Herfoss, boy, after the win in race 1, has he got a lot of work to do? I mean, he's going to win this one.
Well, Brian Starring was only just off the podium in race 1. He finished in 4th position. It's been a pretty strong debut for him as well. At the moment, he leads this 4-bike freight train. The lead of that group is actually the last place on the podium, with Wayne Maxwell leading from Josh Waters, and a pretty handy gap they've got over the rest of the field at the moment as well. But these 4 guys here will all be incredibly desperate to get up on the podium. Can Troy Bayliss make it 2 podiums from the first 2 races of 2018? You'd be a fool to say no.
Yeah, I don't know. When I have a look at Bayliss, though, like, he is just starting to just drop off the back of that group. I mean, his bike's moving around a lot. That does wear the tyres a bit more. Up the inside goes fouls on into turn 1. That's a big move on Brian Stone, but he's made it stick. And that gap out front now, Maxwell has eked that out to a second too. Fouls on, takes that 3rd position. Boy, I don't know what way this is going to go, Phil. Any one of these guys.
Oh, Herfoss up the inside of Starring to take up the running in 4th position now. You said a moment ago he had a lot of work to do. Starring comes straight back at him, Steve Martin, as they come down towards turn 3. It is Starring back up into 4th position. Positions changing every corner as we come down. Backmarker getting in the way there at turn 4, but this group of 4, 3rd to 6th place, are safely through.
Look at Bayliss. That was a big slide and a big wheelie. That's nice.
Well, we know that his son Mitch does UFC fighting at the moment. He's doing a bit of UFC fighting, trying to get the Panigale 1299 final edition under control.
Yeah, it's a final edition. Well, I don't know about that. Bayliss is certainly riding the wheels off it, that's for sure. It's a bike that's always gone well here at Phillip Island, but you have to ride it, and that's what Troy Bayliss is doing out there. He seems to me that he's really fast through the first half of the circuit, but just misses out a little bit down into here and onto that start-finish straight. So he seems to lose time here, which if it comes down to the last lap and for the podium, that's not ideal for him. This is where you want to be strong at this circuit.
This has been a very impressive lap from Daniel Falzon, because he has pulled out a considerable margin over this 4-bike battle as they come round to complete lap 8 of the 12-lap journey. We start lap 9 now. Daniel Falzon getting the fist pump from his brother John there as they come down. But look at Brian Starring's Kawasaki. How fast is that bike down the start-finish straight? He came onto the straight with about 5-6 bike deficit to Daniel Falzon, who actually just uncorked a 134.1 on that last lap to eke out that lead. It's all gone in the blink of an eye for Brian Starring.
It's the nature of this race circuit. You've got that long straight there, and with the big headwind that we've got here today, the guys are getting super drafts down that straight, and 5 bike lengths just isn't enough.
Well, and you can also see that Troy Herfoss, the great chassis of that Honda, and of course the extra power of the brand new CBR 1000 SP2 has held him in good stead as Troy Bayliss tries to go around the outside. Oh, this is epic stuff.
There we go. Look at Brian's bike just moving around as they tip into turn 4 there. Bit of head shake there. Fouls on in behind the screen as he tucks in. Herfoss carries more corner speed around the outside and goes for a dive up the inside into turn 4. Good move by him, and Bayliss sliding away in the background there, giving that rear Pirelli a bit of stick.
Yeah, it's good to see that the riders have also got that braking into turn 4 under control, as we mentioned. A pretty strong tailwind pushing them in there. It is also a headwind on the straight, so I imagine that's why we're seeing top speeds a little bit down on what we've seen over the rest of the weekend. They're still nudging up around the 290 km/h mark as Wayne Maxwell just takes a deep breath and tips the Yamaha YZF R1M into turn 1. A pretty handy lead over Josh Waters at the moment, but it is decreasing 0.355 of a second with Waters 0.2 of a second faster. Speaking of 0.2 of a second, that's all it covers this group of 4.
Yeah, I mean, out of these 4, the last spot for the podium, you just can't pick it. I don't know who it's going to be. It could be Bayliss. It could be Falzon. Falzon certainly wants to get on the podium. He hasn't had one with this team. And think back to last year, Falzon on his privateer bike got 3 wins and a pole position. So he'll be aiming to get a podium first time out on that factory Yamaha.
Well, out towards Siberia we go on lap 10, so the laps are starting to dwindle down now. Starring still holding sway over his former teammate Troy Herfoss. Of course, they were teammates last year, and this is Brian Starring's Kawasaki debut here in Australia. But Steve Martin, he's certainly no stranger to the Kawasaki ZX10. You know how much success he's had overseas on board that bike.
Yeah, absolutely. Spent a lot of time on the Kawasaki in the World Superbike Championship in Europe. And got some good results on it as well. Nearly won a world championship on that bike, so it's a bike he knows well. and I'm sure that it's not going to take him long to get it dialed up. He's got a lot of stiff competition to battle against this year. Making a change from Honda to Kawasaki this year, a new team. He's got a lot to learn, a new different tyre manufacturer with Dunlop as well. So Brian Starring thrown in at the deep end, but doing a good job so far.
Yeah, an excellent point that you make, that Brian Starring is the only one of those lead group of 6 at the moment that is on Dunlop rubber. It is Pirelli that leads out front at the moment with both Wayne Maxwell and Josh Waters. As they came round to complete lap 10, it was a 0.2 second lead for Maxwell and 4.4 seconds over this 4-bike battle. As we start now the penultimate lap, lap 11 of 12. Let's go down for a final update from the pits. And Emma.
Just down here with Calvin Riley from Kawasaki BC Performance. And Calvin, Brian is moving up that grid very, very quickly.
Yeah, it's good to watch. It's obviously, he's in a bit of a tight battle at the moment of 3 other riders, so it's going to be that come down to the last lap. But unfortunately, qualifying in 13th position when with that wet qualifying has really upset our race today. So Brian's had to fight from the back in every race, but he's showing true grit at the moment and giving it a go, which is good, and the bike's working really well thanks to the Kawasaki Ninja ZX-10R.
Good luck. Thanks, Calvin.
Thank you.
Honestly thought that Calvin Riley would be a bit more excited than that, jumping over out of his skin with Brian Starring's performance so far.
You should never be excited with 1.5 laps left to go in a race when your rider's about to get on the podium, Phil.
That's right, and at the moment that's exactly what the story is, because we're about to come round and get the last lap board in this exciting race 2 of the 2018 Yamaha Motor Finance Australian Superbike class. The Yamaha Motorcycle Insurance Championship for the Superbikes is coming down to a very exciting conclusion in this second race of the season. Herfoss is right behind the Kawasaki. Can he stay in the slipstream? Can he stay ahead of a hard-charging Daniel Falzon? And what can Troy Bayliss do on this last lap? Oh, massive amount of, no brakes at all, I think, into turn 1 for Troy Bayliss. Here he comes, the 3-time Superbike World Champion.
Yeah, looks like Bayliss is going to have a red-hot go at this. He got the taste of the podium in race 1, and I think he wants a little bit more this time round. He's less than a second off the lead, but Brian Starring has got the bit between the teeth. He's looking probably pretty smooth out there as they fly through Stoner Corner for the last time.
Yeah, down in towards turn 4 at the moment. It is still Starring that leads. This is where the real interest is at the moment. Wayne Maxwell has got a clear lead over Josh Waters. Herfoss up the inside. Starring ran a fraction wide there on the brakes into turn 4. His desperation level was high. Here comes Herfoss. Here comes Bayliss. And Daniel Falzon is certainly still in the mix for this podium position as well, as they drive up towards the Hayshed for the final time.
Yeah, this is it now. We're into the final parts of this race, and Herfoss has got it all to play for. I'm sure that he wants to back up his win yesterday with another podium here in race 2. Looks up the inside, can't do it here. Brian keeps a tight line. Falzon's in the background. Looks like there's not much he can do from there, but Maxwell comes up against the back marker at the wrong time.
Wayne Maxwell is an expert at dealing with back markers. What can he do? He goes flying past on the run in towards turn 12. No problems there for the man that is about to take his first race win of 2018. Redemption with a capital R for Wayne Maxwell. Crashes out of the first race yesterday afternoon. Takes a race victory here on race number 2. Josh Waters, second place. A great result for him. His second podium of the season. But now the real interest focus is to who is going to get the run for third place. Starring is ahead just of Troy Herfoss as they come across the line. It is Starring by mere hundredths of a second over Troy Herfoss, our race 1 winner. And in his 50th Australian Superbike Championship start, takes 4th position. Troy Bayliss takes 5th and Daniel Falzon takes 6th. Wow, another fantastic race, Steve Martin.
Yeah, absolutely. Who could have seen that coming? In the dust yesterday and win today. Wayne Maxwell, what a race. Wayne Maxwell, your race winner. Josh Waters in 2nd. Brian Starring takes 3rd. Troy Herfoss in 4th. And the other Troy in 5th.
Yeah, Daniel Falzon finishes in 6th and only 0.7 of a second between 3rd and 6th places. Michael Blair, Matt Walters, Glenn Allerton, the brave ride from the 3-times champion in 9th. And Aaron Morris rounds out the top 10.
Yeah, managed to got around 10 people. Imagine that. Yeah, huge thanks to my Kawasaki BC Performance bike and team. The thing's got so much horsepower. It put me in the game, you know. So I was so thankful to be able to make up so much time at the end of the straight, and really that's what did it for me. That's what made it possible to keep edging those positions out. So I'm really grateful for that, and it was a good race. Obviously, to minimise the damage and end up on the podium from a disaster qualifying session on Friday. I'm really happy for that. So yeah, again, thanks to the team and thanks to my personal sponsors, Wallace Risks Solutions, Berry Sweet Strawberries and Consent to Go. Thank you.
Yeah, it was just difficult, but great to get 12 laps under our belt, 12 consecutive laps. So the weather hasn't been great for us, and yeah, you all know the story that our main rivals have been lucky enough to be racing, but it is what it is. We also had the opportunity. Huge thanks to Team X-Star Suzuki. We've got, like I said, a race under our belt, and try and make that bike a little bit better for race 3.
Wayne Maxwell, you had an accident in race number 1. I saw you limping down pit lane a little bit earlier. You managed to come out, absolutely smash the timesheets, and you finished up in first position. Well done.
Thank you very much. Massive credit to Yamaha racing team. Yesterday I destroyed 2 R1s, and they pieced me to get together a bike with no warm-up, and to come out here and to be able to, Josh has been so dominant here, they're so strong, so it's a bit of a relief to know that it's a him and I sort of race, and I was very happy with the bike, and can't thank my guys enough. Dylan, Jamie, Kev, Jeff, everyone that's chipped in. It's been a real team effort, and so massive thanks to Yamaha.
Yamaha's investment in ASBK is clearly significant, so we thought, why not chat to some people behind the scenes? Brad Ryan, General Manager of Finance and Insurance for Yamaha, and also John Redding, who's the team owner of the Yamaha racing team.
There is a massive commitment from Yamaha and YMF and YMI for the ASBK. We have strongly felt that right from the ground up, we need to be involved. We need to be involved both at a racing level and also as a heavy support level. So from a YMF and YMI perspective, we've invested quite heavily in making sure that all the teams get up, but then also quite heavily with MA and ASBK to make sure that the series itself is as good as it can be. So from the R15s, the R3 Cup, the R6s, and also the obviously the YMI Superbike, the major class, and the naming rights sponsor of the ASBK, we've invested very, very heavily to make it work for everybody. When Peter Doyle and Simon Mars and I had a conversation 4 years ago about the future of racing in this country and the opportunity that simply didn't seem to be there. And we had hoped to maybe get a dozen or so bikes on that first grid when we all sort of clubbed together and chased the dream to where we are now, 50 bikes on the grid and turning people away. Not all of them are going to get on there. It's quite remarkable. And the number of manufacturers, we've never had this level of support, and the number of competitive riders, absolutely fantastic. We're delighted.
Well, I guess we've got to start from the bottom, and that's the R15. It's a new thing, obviously, to try and encourage young, up-and-coming Valentinos to get involved in road racing. So it's an initiative that's been, worked at with both MA and YMA and myself, and it's definitely growing. From there, of course, what we want to do is try and transition them into the R3 Cup. And this year we have seen several of the R15 guys actually doing both classes, and they've been very successful. So the program obviously is working because they're coming from R15 and they're going to R3 Cup, and they're not starting at the bottom. From R3 Cup, we have the 300 Super Sport class. This year we've actually increased our level of involvement in the 300 Super Sport class. We actually have a factory supported team with Tom, Hunter and Zach. And that's just an initiative that's only about 2 or 3 weeks old, so we're still massaging that one. The idea is that from that point on, then we can encourage riders to go from Super Sport 300 to Super Sport 600. Now this year we actually have a big support group in Super Sport 600, but we also have decided to be involved as a factory team with Prix. So that's a new initiative, and that's fairly fresh too. So, and now, of course, after Prix, come here to the 1000cc bikes with Wayne and Daniel, and of course not only Wayne and Daniel, but we also have quite a support category that we help out as well. So as you can imagine, we have probably the biggest investment we've ever had in the history of the company in ASBK, and I only see it growing.
Pirelli have been making racing tyres for a long, long time now. In fact, they won the first World Superbike Championship with Fred Merkel back in 1989. All of that to development on track, though, hasn't been lost, because what they have done with that is they've turned it into these tyres over here, road tyres that you guys at home get out on the track. Now, the World Superbike Circus is here again this weekend, so we caught up with Giorgio Babier to find out more. Giorgio, there's definitely a connection between your racing tyres and your road tyres.
Yes, that's the reason why we are here in this championship. That's the reason why we race in Superbike. This kind of bikes are really close to the sports bikes are on the road. And from the rims point of view, from a performance point of view, the tires has to be related to this. That's the reason why we use the standard carcass we use in a road product as well, and we don't leave this concept because the bike has to remain most as possible as they are.
The racetrack is also the perfect testing place with all of the riders, but here at Phillip Island, it is the toughest track in the world, so you must get a lot of information from a track like this.
Yes, Phillip Island, this little island in Victoria State is really the place where everything starts, the championship. All the teams arrive here with not a lot of tests in the winter, and they found an incredible place with very changey condition in the weather, from the weather point of view, and a track that is really proving a lot, especially over the tire because of the left effort they need from mechanical and thermical point of view. So this is the best proving ground we might have at the beginning of a season.
And isn't it great to have Pirelli on board this year, presenting the 2018 Yamaha Motor Finance Australian Superbike Championship along with Motul. And there is the 2016 champion, Troy Herfoss, has already won a race here this weekend. Best ever start for Troy Herfoss at the start of an Australian Championship. And today was making his 51st start in the Australian Superbike Championship. But at the moment, everyone is still chasing the man that gets great starts from pole position. Emma Francesco is down on the grid. Let's hear from Emma before race 3 gets underway.
So I've managed to get down to the media grid for this final race. 25 points are up for grabs when who would it be? Can it be Josh Waters sitting on pole position? Of course, he was rather frustrated after that last race, saying that Wayne, well, he's had a lot of extra track time this weekend being on double duties. Let's see if we can jump in with some of the riders, have a quick chat just before they head out. Josh, there's no doubt that you're very fast this weekend, but what do you have to do for this race to get the win in the bag?
We've changed the bike a little bit for this one, so the wind's quite strong, but yeah, just try my hardest and hopefully they can't stay up, but it's going to be bloody tough.
Good luck, go get him.
Thanks.
And of course, the one that beat him last time was this guy right here, sitting in second, Wayne Maxwell. Wayne, you've got a clear track ahead of you, but you've got to beat down that reigning champion there, and we all know that Josh gets a very good start.
Yeah, look, he's got a good start yesterday, good start today, and yeah, I mean, it is what it is. We're doing our best to improve in that area, and we are slowly, so hopefully in this one get away a little bit cleaner and yeah, try to just go with him at the start, and then hopefully don't have to work as hard, because it was definitely hard work in race 2.
Good luck.
Thank you.
All right, let's keep moving down. One guy that we definitely want to chat to is Troy Bayliss. What a weekend he's had so far. Troy Bayliss, wow, all eyes have been on you this weekend. You have not cracked under the pressure. In fact, you've been smiling all weekend long.
Yeah, I've had a pretty good time actually. It's been pretty good progress. Haven't had a lot of time on the bike, and I'd like the changes we made. If it's better than what I had this morning, I think I'll be up for a good race this afternoon.
Good one, enjoy. We might check on Glenn Allerton. Of course, he had a really bad accident and he was very, very sore before that last race. Glenn Allerton, very, very determined man you are. You had sustained a back injury after a high side after the race number 1, but you're out here and racing. Well done.
Yeah, we just need to get through today with some points. You know, I'm going to try my hardest, and if I can get in a battle and race some people, I'll try. But yeah, got a lot of pain in the back at the moment, so just trying to salvage points.
Good on you, mate. Go get him.
Thanks.
Let's go down to Brian Starring. He's had a pretty good weekend, of course. He's in green now with Kawasaki BC Performance. The green really does suit you. You're looking really strong on that bike this weekend.
Looking good in green, all right. Yeah, it was a bummer that qualifying went particularly bad for us back here on the 5th row. But so far we've been able to convert that into a few good results, and if we get lucky and the guys don't get away too far at the front this time around, maybe we can have a chance at the win. We'll see.
Good luck.
Thank you.
So there you have it. We've got to get off the grid. Cannot wait for this one. Who will win the round here at Phillip Island, our final race? It's over to you, Phil Harlem and Steve Martin.
Thank you very much, Emma. It is always great to hear from the riders prior to the start of a race down on the grid as we get ready for the final race. Race number 3 at this first round of the 2018 Championship. Josh Waters will start from pole position with Wayne Maxwell and Troy Bayliss joining him on the front row of the grid. Daniel Falzon, Troy Herfoss and Michael Blair on the second row. Don't forget the next round at Wakefield Park, Troy Herfoss's home circuit, and round 3 at the new Bend circuit in South Australia, Daniel Falzon's home circuit.
There was a bit of a glint in the eye of Brian Starring starting back on the 5th row of the grid there. Keep an eye on him. When he's in a confident mood, he's normally pretty fast. And of course, Maxwell, after the performance he had in race 2, he's definitely got to be one of the hard chargers. Suzuki man Josh Waters, I don't know what you think, but I thought he would have run away with this weekend. He's had some good fast times in qualifying and practice leading up to the race weekend, but it just hasn't gone his way for one reason or another. I think that he's got to make it count this time round.
Yeah, also a good point that he made too about Wayne Maxwell. He has essentially been on the bike since Monday of the start of the week, so he's been doing a lot of laps around here at Phillip Island, so that's the reason why he's been on the pace. Of course, he doesn't need to get any extra time here. This is his favourite circuit. As this massive grid scrolls through, as we said, 40 starters, 50 entries. Unfortunately, there were 10 people that didn't get to race here this weekend, but it just shows that the 2018 championship is off to a fantastic start. And Josh Waters starting from pole position. He's been fast off the line, but so is Brian Starring. Keep an eye on him. As we get ready for a start, the revs rise and we're away. It is a great start once again from the front row of the grid, and Wayne Maxwell for the second time, Steve Martin, looks like he has got a decent start and will be in good position as they make their way into turn 1. But it's his teammate, the Daniel Falzon, that betters him slightly and takes up the running in second position behind Josh Waters.
Yeah, certainly did. Bayliss got a cracker too off the front row of the grid. Is that Michael Blair there in 4th position too? Good for Michael Blair. He's really coming on song, this young Michael.
Yeah, he's getting the bike off the line well, and that qualifying performance has had him in strong positions every race. There goes Brian Starring, another great start from him. He's done a lot of the work getting forward from 13th position in the opening couple of corners of each of the races so far. Strong start for Matt Walters too on board the Rover Coaches Swan Insurance Machine. He's right behind Brian Starring as well, and it also looks like, is that Troy Herfoss that has dropped back, and he is behind Matt Walters and Brian Starring early on in this one.
Yeah, Herfoss with a lot of work to do, but I just want to point out, Phil, that these are the hottest conditions we've had all weekend, so expect to see something completely different this time out than what we've seen in the past.
Yeah, I think Herfoss just got past Matt Walters on the run up towards the Hayshed. An excellent point, Steve, because we've seen the World Superbike guys struggling this weekend with tyre degradation. Of course, the ASBK races only being 12 laps are a lot shorter. The riders can not have to worry about that so much as what the World guys do. And as has been pointed out this weekend, the tyres are very, very similar.
The other thing we'll be interested to see is how those changes that Bayliss made to his bike affect him after about 5 or 6 laps. We saw him in race 2 drop off the pace a little bit. There's 64, that's Aaron Morris, once again getting a great start. Imagine how much he's learning this weekend. He's been really up in the sharp end for a lot of the time.
Yep, as we start the second lap now, he's still Waters leading from Falzon, Maxwell. Troy Bayliss is almost right with them as well. And we saw after the test, Troy Bayliss may have been doubting his pace, but from the moment that we got here this weekend, and actually at the 2-day test that we saw at Phillip Island, he knows his way around Phillip Island, but who would have thought that he would be running at the front? Well, I reckon Troy Bayliss probably would have.
Yeah, I know. He's just an incredible guy, and he hasn't really truly stopped racing. He's been racing continuously, whether it be off-road, dirt track, one thing or another, for the last 10 years. So it's not like he's come in cold turkey. He really is a man that's has got it in his blood and he's ready to rock and roll. There's Herfoss, work to do. He's got about a 3-second gap now that he's got to catch up to the leaders. But once again, it's last year's champion, ex-Star Suzuki rider, Josh Waters, who leads the way.
It'll be interesting to see what the lap times are. As you mentioned, Steve Martin, hot conditions here, and see what they can manage to pull off on this first flying lap as they come round now down in towards turn 10. Bayliss is right there. Starring is actually starting to close the gap down on this lead group of 4 on board that BC Performance Kawasaki ZX10. Herfoss, his teammate from last year, is coming with him as well on board the Penrite Honda.
One thing I did notice though just before was Bayliss's bike is already just starting to move around in the back. We're only a couple of laps into this. That's not going to bode well for later on.
Well, pitboard and hurry up for Josh Waters there as they come down the straight. Maxwell in the slipstream of his teammate Daniel Falzon, pulls to the inside and makes the move stick. Does he just as they come down into turn 1, and Troy Bayliss is right there on the back wheel of Daniel Falzon as well as they rocket towards Southern Loop, one of Troy Bayliss's favourite overtaking places all weekend. He's carrying a lot of corner speed around the outside of Falzon. The this is just a continuation of race number 1, isn't it, Steve Martin? Troy Bayliss, elbows out, not scared to have a real dip, and turn 2 is obviously one of his favourite places on this circuit.
Absolutely, and I'll tell you another favourite place for him is into this corner here, turn 4. He's claimed a few scalps here as well, but fouls on, knows how to win around here, so no respect to Bayliss. He's going to make it hard for him to get past. Fouls on also right on the back now of Wayne Maxwell. Remember, Maxwell, winner last time out in race 2.
Well, we're on lap 3. At the completion of lap 2, Josh Waters had nearly a half-second lead over the rest of the field, and I don't think he's been able to get away completely, but it looks like he may have just eked it out a fraction. I'd be keeping my eye on these two at the moment because Troy Herfoss and Brian Starring are certainly closing down that distance to the front group, and I think you might find another lap or two we'll have a 6-bike freight train battling it out for the lead, and also right behind them as well is the 178 of Michael Blair, who has had a stunning weekend so far this weekend in only his 2nd year of superbike racing in the ASBK.
Yeah, Herfoss has certainly made a good recovery to be right on the back wheel of Brian Starring at the moment. Of course, Brian, one of the few riders out there with the Dunlop tyre package this year. I know that the Dunlops like the hotter conditions. Who knows what could happen? The tyres could come to him later in the race.
And I think you can just see in the bottom left-hand corner of your screen there, Troy Bayliss trying to find a way past Daniel Falzon, and he's done it now as they come through turn 1 and head towards Southern Loop. You're speaking of differences, Steve Martin. Brian Starring is on the Dunlop tyres, but Troy Herfoss also debuting the K-Tech suspension on board that Penrite Honda this weekend.
Oh, look at Bayliss there as he tips into turn 4. A bit of a hippy shake, and he's got that thing sliding around, foot off the foot peg already. Come on, it's not the last lap, Troy. Hold it together.
No, it's only lap 3. Troy Bayliss hold the Desmo Sport Ducati together. He's up into 3rd place, though, and looking pretty strong. In fact, he may have pulled out a bike length or 2 from Falzon, but once again, Starring and Herfoss, fastest men on track as they come round through Siberia now and try to catch up onto this lead group.
Yeah, I've got a feeling, Phil, that group is going to get awfully close pretty quickly, the way that the boys at the back are catching up. Very wide at the back there by Troy Herfoss, but that's a line that you can use and a line that he likes through there at the Hayshed corner as they head down into MG and then up into turn 11, and once again that gap has come down even further. Herfoss looks like he's having no problem at all hanging onto the back of Brian Starring right now, so it bodes well for him, because what it means is that he's actually just taking it easy, going along for the ride, letting Brian do all the hard work, taking the slipstream, looking after his tyres. Smart riding by Troy Herfoss.
It'll be very interesting to see the lap times as they come round to complete this lap 4 at the moment, and in fact at the completion of lap 4 it was Brian Starring and Troy Herfoss, the 2 fastest men on track, both in the low 133s, and they're now closed that distance up. There's only 1.9 seconds between our race lead Josh Waters and Troy Herfoss, who currently sits back there right behind Brian Starring.
Well, it looks like Josh Waters is starting to struggle just a little bit again, because Wayne Maxwell's right on the back wheel of him, nipping at those heels there and giving it everything he can got. He knows that he's going to be up for a fight. He's not going to be able to ride away in this one. No way.
Yeah, well, on the last lap, Wayne Maxwell was actually 0.2 of a second faster than Josh Waters, and that's that gap we see closing down. Waters, see, he lifted his arm up there, Steve Martin.
It looked to me like he was adjusting his clutch or something there. So I reckon that he's got some sort of issue, Waters, that looked like he was adjusting something, either that or the front brake. His front brake adjuster's there, perhaps, and I'd say that's what it is. I reckon he's got some sort of front brake adjustment issues. You adjust the brakes on these bikes, believe it or not, on the left-hand handlebar.
Yeah, great to see that he can manage to do that while he's lapping Phillip in the 133s as well.
If he doesn't do it, he's not going to finish the lap. He needs those brakes. So, he's there. There's the adjuster there. He's playing around with it, and he needs to do it.
Here's a replay of that moment that Troy Bayliss had coming out of turn 2 and down towards turn 3 just a moment ago. You can see exactly what you said, Steve Martin, about the bike starting to move around a little bit under Troy Bayliss at the moment. Doesn't seem to be phasing him though, because he's moved up into a strong 3rd position.
Nice rear wheel slide there. Look at that. Beautiful stuff. Changes back through the gears, hard on the brakes. Perhaps this is where Josh Ward is also having braking problems.
Well, not a lot of brakes required into turn 2, but we'll keep our eye on bike number 1 as he heads into turn 4 on this lap. Well, Bayliss has run wide, and Brian Starring is up the inside. Herfoss is right onto the back of him now as well. Well, the man that's won 3 Superbike World Championships and will be celebrating his 49th birthday in the coming weeks, has now got a real fight on his hands because he's got Brian Starring and Troy Herfoss right with him, and they're very determined to try and get to the front. Herfoss, I think, is up the inside of Bayliss, who was a fraction wide going into turn 4. Look at this battle as well. Glenn Allerton and the man that he has been mentoring over the last couple of years, young Michael Blair, on board the 178 machine.
Yeah, good to see Glenn Allerton out there and holding it all together. Had that big off in race 1. So, good to see him out there. We heard that he was going to just hold it together and get some points, and that's what he's doing, which is great for the next gen team.
Notice Troy Bayliss has got a completely different line to the other guys as well coming through the Hayshed corner. He seems to hug that inside curb a lot more than Troy Herfoss then, and it was clearly evident as they made their way up there on this lap. Herfoss now, it's a repeat of race number 1. He's got to try and do it, desperate to find his way past Troy Bayliss on board the Desmo Sport Ducati, and once again we've got the Battle of Troy. Won't be the last time this year we say that, Steve Martin.
No, absolutely not. It's going to be interesting to see how this pans out down the straight. We know that the Honda has got a lot more power than it has in the past. Will he be able to slipstream past? We'll find out any second, but for now, let's head down to Emma in the pits.
Guys, just down here with Ben Henry, team manager of Desmo Sport Ducati, and you've got to be pretty happy with Troy Bayliss this weekend.
Yeah, for sure. I am. It's been really good, and it's been nice to see him come back and do a really good job. It's a work in progress, obviously. It's our first, debut race. New bike, a new rider, so yeah, everything's been going good.
Did you make any changes at all from race 2?
Yeah, we did, and it did look like it was going quite well, but it looks like we're losing a bit of front feel here. He keeps running wide, so I'm not too sure what's going on there, but anyway, it looks like he's starting to struggle a bit.
Good luck.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much, Emma. Great to hear from Ben Henry from the Desmo Sport Ducati team there. I think he hit the nail on the head. Troy Bayliss is struggling a little bit with the front end, but while we were hearing from Ben Henry, a great overtaking manoeuvre from Brian Starring to move up into 3rd place, and he's now got his sights set on the leaders.
Great overtaking manoeuvres there, looking nice and smooth, and he's got these two boys in front right in his sights now, Phil.
Like I said, I did speak to Brian over the weekend, and he said the one thing that's been impressive about this weekend for him so far is the fact that he's been able to do a lot of the work early on in the races, and the fact that his bike is so fast towards the end of the straight. What can he do now, because he's got clear air in front of him? Can Daniel Falzon stay with him in the slipstream, or can Brian Starring use the advantage of that little slipstream he may get from Wayne Maxwell and Josh Waters ahead to bring himself up onto the back of these lead 2? Well, Starring wasn't close enough to get the slipstream, but Wayne Maxwell used it to absolute perfection. He's taken up the running now at the front of the field as they come down into turn 1 on the start of this 8th of 12 laps.
Brian Starring now, he's the danger man in this pack. He's right on the back wheel of Josh Waters. And we saw Brodie Waters before holding out that lap board 0.0 and saying, come on, get a move on, brother, because they're there. He knows it now. Everybody's there, and they all wanted to win this race.
Fastest man on lap 7, Troy Herfoss on bike number 17, who's now closing in on this lead group as well, as Starring goes up the inside of Josh Waters to take up the running in 2nd position. We saw in race number 2 how fast Brian Starring was at the end of the race, and he's doing it again now. Josh Waters in 3rd, and Falzon, who got brought forward by Brian Starring, is now sitting in 4th place, right behind these leaders as well, with Herfoss coming quickly on the Penrite Honda.
Yeah, another fantastic overtaking manoeuvre by Brian Starring. He just seems to have this in hand at the moment. He really is on a mission.
Coming round to complete 8 laps of the 12-lap journey. There will be 4 laps to go. Join us on the other side of this break for the exciting conclusion of race number 3. Welcome back to Phillip Island and the exciting conclusion of this 3rd and final race of the first round of the 2018 Yamaha Motor Finance Australian Superbike Championship, presented by Motul Pirelli, and it is the Dunlop shod Kawasaki of Brian Starring that leads them down into turn 1. Maxwell led onto the straight. Starring's bike's fast, and he got a good run down in towards turn 1. They get a back marker at the worst possible point, the mid-corner area of turn 2, the long southern loop. Looks like everyone has got around safely. Starring has got the ears pinned back, with Maxwell now right on his tail. Josh Waters has just dropped off by a bike length or 2, having to deal with that back marker. But as they come down in towards turn 4, it is Starring that still leads. Waters up the inside.
This is still anybody's race, Phil. I just can't tell you who's going to win this one. The only thing I will say is that Bayliss has dropped off the back of the group. Whatever problem he's had, he's not going to get on the podium this time out. It's up to this group, these boys here. They're fighting for it with just 3 laps to go.
Yeah, the good news for Troy Bayliss is he's got a pretty comfortable lead over Michael Blair, who is about 3.5 to 4 seconds behind him at the moment, as this lead group of 5 makes their way up past the hay shed and to the top of Lukey Heights. It is Starring on the BC Performance Kawasaki, leading from Josh Waters on the Suzuki Team X-Star Australia JSX R1000. Then it's the 2 Yamaha YZF R1Ms of Daniel Falzon and the Fairale Phillip Island Race 2 winner Wayne Maxwell, with Troy Herfoss, the 2016 champion, on board that Penrite Honda CBR 1000 SP2 right behind as well, as they come round now to complete the 9th lap. Let's have a look and see what the lap times are on this lap as the pressure, Steve Martin, it looks like at the front, really starting to build now to a crescendo.
Absolutely, and as they cross the line, Phil, how did they go?
Josh Waters, the fastest man on track, the only man to get down into the mid-34s, everyone else in the high 34s. Wayne Maxwell, in fact, the 35.020.
This could be a big day for Kawasaki, because they haven't won a race in the ASBK since Mad Mike Jones won the championship back in 2015. If it continues the way it is, Kawasaki are back.
Yeah, and also too at the extremely high level of competition in 2018 as well. But as you said, anyone's race. We've still got a few laps to go as we come down towards turn 4. Starring's a bit wide. Can Waters get up the inside? Let's go down to Emma for a final update from the pits.
Just down here with Calvin Riley from Kawasaki BC Performance, and Calvin, he's gone up to first, Brian Starring. How on earth did that happen from 13th on the grid?
We worked on a few changes between race 2 and this race, and it seems to be working so far. But as you can see, it's pretty tight at the front there, so it's still anybody's race. But I believe we've got a good setup, so I think we'll be all right. So it's just got to keep it together, and we'll see how it goes. A few laps to go.
Good luck.
I'm wondering if Calvin Riley actually had his fingers crossed while he was talking to Emma. He was more interested in looking at the super screens to see how his rider is going. And he's now under a fair amount of pressure because Waters, who was the fastest man on track last lap around, is now closed right up onto the back of Brian Starring as they come through turn 11. They will come round through and down onto Gardner Straight now. These 2 bikes have proven so far this weekend, Steve, to be extremely quick.
Absolutely. One thing we do know is that when Josh Waters starts to wind up, it's hard to stop. But look at the BC Performance Kawasaki just streak away down the straight. Another couple of bike lengths there. Waters can't do anything about it. The number 25, Daniel Falzon's in there as well, sitting in 3rd position.
Well, he was in 3rd, Steve Martin. He's just moved up into 2nd with a slick move on Josh Waters as they went into turn 2. But the fastest man on track on lap 10 was his teammate, Wayne Maxwell, with a 1:33.827.
Well, there you go. I think these fastest lap quotes, you can just throw them out the window, Phil, because it's going to come down to the last lap. It's going to be an absolute cracker. And although that man, number 67, Brian Starring's leading this race now, I'll tell you what, if he stays there at the end, it's going to be incredible, because there's a lot of guys behind him, at least 4 at least, that want to win this one.
Yeah, Herfoss in 5th is now only 0.6 of a second behind the leader, Brian Starring, as they came across the start-finish line. Up towards the hay shed, and Falzon continues to run in 2nd position in his best performance so far this weekend. It has been a fine debut in the Yamaha factory team, the ride that he's been waiting so long for Daniel Falzon this weekend.
Yeah, absolutely. He's a little bit wide there, though. Josh Waters looks up the inside, can't do anything about it. But when I look at this group, Phil, the number 67, Brian Starring, he just seems to be the smoothest of the bunch, you know. Oh, nice little move up there by Herfoss, but Brian's bike, it's not moving around. They really have, whatever changes they've made, are really working for him.
It looked like it had great acceleration out of turn 11 towards turn 12 as well. Let's have a look now as they come down. They will get the last lap board. We are on the final 4.45 kilometre run to the checkered flag. Starring still leads. Waters positions the Suzuki perfectly. Sweeps around the outside of Daniel Falzon as the Honda can't match the Suzuki and Yamaha for speed. But look at the way that Herfoss makes all of that distance up through turn 1. Obviously, the chassis working fantastically well.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's the thing, I guess, about these different bikes is at different tracks they're stronger. We know how well that Herfoss goes at Wakefield Park, which is where we're heading to next.
Yeah, Wakefield Park is the next round of the championship, the home round still for Troy Herfoss, even though he lives on the Gold Coast now. Brian Starring down into turn 4, the front end pattering all over the place as he was later than late on the brakes. Josh Waters, who moved into 2nd at turn 1, is now trying to get as close as he can to Brian Starring on this last lap, but the Kawasaki is very rapid up the hill here out of Siberia, with Waters trying to go with him.
Yeah, not too far to go now for the man out front, the number 67, the Kawasaki rider, doing everything right. He's just got to leave no gaps. But one thing we know, Phil, is that Josh Waters will definitely strike. He's going to have a go. He's not going to just sit behind Brian, not when he's that close. Down into this next one is probably where he's going to do it. There goes Maxwell up the inside. Bang, nice clean move. Wayne Maxwell up, but Daniel Falzan's on the inside there, but it's back to the front. Number 67 leads out of 11. But what will happen out of 12?
Well, Josh Waters is right on his tail. As we said, these two bikes are going to get great drive out onto the start-finish straight. Kelvin Riley is about to jump over the fence as they come down now to the checkered flag in the final race of the round. It is Waters, pulls out from the slipstream. There's a back marker in the way. Oh, there is literally nothing in it. 0.019 of a second is the difference to Starring as they come across the line over the reigning champion, Josh Waters. There goes Troy Bayliss. Congratulations all round. What a race. What a round. Brian Starring, his first victory back in Australia since his championship winning year, and the first win for Kawasaki since 2015, and Mad Mike Jones' championship winning year. Starring takes the win from Waters and Maxwell on the podium. Troy Herfoss in 4th, Daniel Falzan in 5th, Bayliss in 6th, Michael Blair in 7th, Glenn Allerton, a brave ride to 8th, Matt Walters, another top 10 in 9th, and Aaron Morris rounds out the top 10, a fine debut for the Novocastrian.
Yeah, absolutely, had it all. It's just happy. Then I just didn't have the greatest feeling, made a small change, and it was no good there. So anyway, it's all good. Really happy to come away with a podium and salvage some points after a rough weekend.
Are you sure you even had an injury? You looked very strong out there. You won a race after you were injured and you got another podium. Well done.
Yeah, it's just my left ankle. It's nothing major holding me back, but yeah, it's all good. We'll come out to the next one fighting and hopefully claw some more points back.
Yeah, great weekend, a lot better than last year. So a little disappointed not to get a win after being so strong in our one practice and one qualifying session, but these things happen, and I fought for the victory in all 3 races, so I'm happy. Huge thanks to Team X-Star Suzuki, and we're all on round 2.
Brian Starring, well done. From 13th position to 1st position, obviously the changes you made from the last race paid off.
Yeah, we maybe not went back to the drawing board, but I knew I was just getting murdered in a few places in the previous race, and I knew if we could just improve our bike in a couple of key areas, then I'd be super strong that race. And I didn't hit the thumb or the forefinger. I got the nail right on the head that time. So I really enjoyed that, and we've apparently won the overall for the weekend. So from 13th, what we thought on Friday was a disaster. I'm so happy we stayed positive and turned the weekend around. So huge thanks to the Kawasaki BC Performance team and to my personal sponsors, Berry Sweet Strawberries, Consent to Go, and Wallace Chris. Wallace Chris, thank you very much for coming on board.
It was a rough weekend, but he did a great job, Wayne Maxwell, scoring some solid points towards the end of the weekend. Scoring the most points was Brian Starring with 60 points, taking the round win over Josh Waters and Troy Herfoss, who are tied for 2nd place as we head now for Wakefield Park, the 2nd round of the championship at Troy Herfoss's home circuit of Wakefield Park. Troy Bayliss, a great debut on board the Desmo Sports Ducati in 4th place and 51 points just behind the championship lead. And Daniel Falzan rounds out the top 5. 5 different manufacturers inside that top 5, and a fairy tale start for the 2018 Yamaha Motor Finance Australian Superbike Championship. Let's head down to Emma Francesco and Steve Martin for a final wrap of today's exciting proceedings.
And that wraps up the very first round of the 2018 season here from Phillip Island. I tell you what, Steve, it really had a bit of everything. Great battles, lots of drama, sensational racing, and you wouldn't have thought that Brian Starring would have come out of that on top.
Yeah, he had to get used to a new manufacturer, new tyres. He had a lot to do this round, but he managed to pull it all together and had the weekend of his dreams. So top job for Brian Starring.
Well, we hope he has another great weekend at Wakefield Park. That is our next round. We hope to see you there. And of course, some other fantastic Motorcycling Australia events to get to all throughout March. Make sure you check out ma.org.au for more information. Stay up to date with everything ASBK at asbk.com.au. Thank you, Steve. Thank you for joining us. We'll see you next time.